Alright, welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to show you guys how to go from a smooth object, and we use a automotive part here, to a textured object. I'm going to make it look like leather, but you can apply this exact workflow to any object really with any type of texture. So it's using Blender, which is free, and it's not that scary. It's not as hard as you might think. So firstly, we are going to be looking at the actual model. So I found this model on Printables. It's for a car gauge. This part will come up smooth. And the problem is that when you install it into a car, it might not match the interior of what's there. And 3D printing can do a lot of things, but if you don't know how to design, then you're just limited to, say, printing that kind of smooth shape. So what we're going to do, the workflow we're going to do is we're going to take this object and apply a texture to it to make it like this. So let me walk you through that entire process now. I'm going to jump into Blender and, actually before we do that, we need the actual texture itself. So firstly, let's have a look at our texture. And what I'm going to do is I've just Googled leather texture SVG. So actually, I don't want a vector graphic file. I actually want an image to apply here. But when you type in SVG, it just gives you this really nice black and white texture, really. And because we're going to take this into Blender and then apply it to the face. And the only way to actually communicate the actual texture itself is with either white or black. And then Blender will be able to map that and go, okay, the white region or the black regions, I'll indent or make them come out of the surface more. So there's all these different types of textures that you can look at. Really, you're going to have to play around with what looks best. Like you might have to go through this workflow a few times, but I like the look of this one here. It's got this little ladybug in there, and what you'll realize is that that'll kind of just turn black when we put it into the program. So I'm going to go ahead and save this image in my downloads as the raw texture image. All right, that's that. And so now I've got this image saved. I don't actually know what size it is, so I'm going to go ahead and open Inkscape, which is a editing program for, you can edit a lot of things. Actually, this is a really good program for 3D printing. I use it actually quite a lot when I'm making SVG files. But what we're going to do is just drag our image into here, just so we can like properly resize it. So this part that I showed you is, let's have a look. How big is it? It is about 11, what's that? Yeah, okay, so it's about 20 something centimeters across. So we want something that's kind of in that field, and we will be able to change this later, like how much detail we provide to this. So don't worry too much, but we just want something that's roughly in that ballpark. And we've got it here as about 250 millimeters across. And if you open up Blender, you'll see this kind of thing here. And we're going to actually import our part and check if we've got enough detail. So go File, Import STL. Now I'm going to see it there. Bang, open that. All right, and I'm just going to zoom out so we have a look at it. And you can see that's quite smooth, but we can see these triangles already. That's a bad sign because we're still in object mode, which smooths all that out. If I go to edit mode, you can see that I've got these massive triangles. So I can't really apply texture because look how big this single triangle is here. It's enormous. Like it's not going to work to actually be able to edit this triangle to create a texture. It's just way too big. So there's a few things that we have to do. The first thing, if I go onto my object and then go into this modifier tab, which is a little wrench icon, and click here, then you'll see that I have this remesh option. I'm going to click on that. So in this particular case, you can see, or it's hard to see actually the results, but you got this voxel size, and that is the size of how big each of these nodes, like how long those points are. And you saw before that we had a really long one on the side of this part, but 0.1 millimeters is quite small. I don't want to kill my computer yet and make it think too much, but I'm going to go to 0.5 millimeters as the size. You can see that I've lost a little bit of this kind of edge resolution. Like you see this like edge isn't perfect because it's remeshing everything. So it is showing me a live update now, which is good. So there's a few different options of remeshing. So we might have to try a different option here. If you go sharp, it's good for surfaces that have sharp edges. So in this particular case, it's doing something very weird. So let's increase the resolution here. Yeah, there we go. More. Can I go more than 9? It doesn't look like I can go more than 9, but it does look like, So it does look like we have more granular, so like a higher mesh density. So if we're happy with this, what we have to end up doing is actually applying this to get it to take effect. Yeah, so if I hit apply and then go to edit mode, you can see that I've got this much more granular structure here. There's way more, yeah, these are much smaller, and yeah, that's going to work a lot better to actually create this mesh. So we'll have to see, like, honestly, like, it just depends on the size of the texture that you're implementing. If it's really a really fine texture, then you might need a finer mesh here. I'm going to hope that, so I've just clicked tab there to go in between object and edit mode. You can hit tab. So I'm in edit mode now because I hit tab, but I can hit tab again and it takes me back to object. So if I go to edit mode, I can see all these, and yeah, they look good to me now. We're just gonna have to see if that works for our particular texture. Okay, now the workflow is this. So once you kind of got to this stage, all we've done so far is just create a mesh that is more detailed of our part. That's literally what we've done, and we've got the image of the actual texture, which is white and black of the texture that we want to produce. Then what we're going to do is go through this sequence. Okay, so firstly, we have to go back to object mode. We're going to select our object and go Control A, and then we're going to apply all transforms. So we're just going to make sure that that is selected. And then we are going to go back into edit mode. So I'm going to go into edit mode and then hit A. That selects all of the nodes. And then if I go Alt N, I'm going to recalculate the outside. And all that does for those two steps is just make sure that every type of change that we've kind of implemented so far is like fully defined, and we're confirming that the mesh is all good, it's dense, it's even, it's like watertight and all that. So that's preparing the model. And then the next kind of step is we need to UV unwrap everything, basically. So the way that we're going to apply this texture is actually all of these nodes are going to be unwrapped, and then as if we are going to place this entire thing onto a flat piece of paper, and we're going to color it in with this texture. There's special algorithms that Blender will apply. We don't actually have to know them. All you have to do is know that once you're in this mode and you've selected everything by clicking A, if you press the letter U and you go Smart UV Project. Yeah, you click that. I'm not going to lie, like this is getting more advanced and pushing the boundaries of what I know with mesh design tools. But with the island margin, we have to set this to some small value. It's usually between like 0.02 and 0.05. Because we're going to apply a texture to it that will have to repeat throughout this part. So this is going to help transition between edges, so we don't have obvious seams between the texture boundary. So once we do that and click OK, in the background, and I think you can view this if you go to UV editing. Oh, actually, yeah, that's great. It's unwrapped everything. This whole thing, and this is actually really cool. So if you look at this, right? If I select that, it's unwrapped it all there. If I hit A, I've got everything there. So you can see like it's unwrapped it all and it's put it on a blank sheet of paper, and we're going to apply the texture to this. Okay, so I don't want to make it too complicated, but that's the theory behind it. We've unwrapped it, and it's unwrapped everything and put it on a paper or a sheet plane, and that's what we're going to apply the texture to. So that's in the UV editing. I'm going to go back to layout, and now that we've done that, I'm just going to save my work so we don't cry if the computer crashes. We're going to say textured part. Okay, and now we have to actually apply this texture. So it's another modifier. So we're going to go back to the object tab, click on the part and go to modifier, and it's a displace modifier. So we have to actually add the texture. Like there's no textures that we've added. Like once you do this once, like if you open another part up, you could, like the texture will be there, but the first time you got to hit new texture, and we haven't actually given it the image of this texture yet. So we have to go to this part here, show texture in texture tab. Now that's actually down here. You can see texture, but if I click on this button, it'll just take me there. And the texture is blank at the moment. There's no texture being applied. So I need to open or create a texture, but in this case, I've got an image. I'm going to open it and then click on the raw texture here. And you can see that I've got this, this texture that's applied. Obviously, it's being applied in a really weird way. So we're going to have to fix this by going back. And the local coordinate system actually has to be UV because we've created that UV texture. So you can see here, if I do that, then I've got this leather kind of texture that's applied, except that there is a problem, and we will get there. It's obviously way too big. So I can change the strength of this and make it more chill, more subtle, but also it's quite big. Like obviously, like leather doesn't come like that for a part that's this big. It has to be much more granular. So if you go down to mapping, then you'll see these repeat buttons. So if I say go up to 3, and that's in the X direction, and this is in the Y direction, I can add 3 and 3, and you see that I get these textures being added yet again. But it's kind of granular, and that comes back to the mesh density that we discussed before. That's going to be an issue because we just don't get that smooth finish that we need a really smooth finish here. Like we're going for a very premium part. So yeah, we need to basically go back and basically cancel this and make sure that we can remesh this. So we've got a much more dense mesh. So I'm going to hit remesh again. And instead of 0.5 on my voxel size, I might go to like, I don't know, 0.2, something like that. So it's going to be, okay, this is not a big enough change. Let's just write that in there, 0.2. And I'm going to apply this by going to the drop down, hitting apply. And then if I hit tab to go to edit mode, it is way more dense. You can see it makes the part look black because it's so dense. So yeah, this is a lot more memory intensive now. That's one of the drawbacks and what I was trying to avoid. But now if we apply this displacement, we should get a lot of better granulation. So I click that, it looks weird. It's on the local. So I go back to UV. My texture. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we remeshed everything. So this is good actually that this happened. So we remeshed everything. So the UV editing won't apply because what we did before, it's been remeshed. So see how the UV thing that we had before is gone. I'll go back to layout. I'm gonna cancel my displacement command, and we have to go through those steps again. So just to remind you, it's firstly you hit save, and then we're going to go Control A. We're going to apply all transforms. Then we go to edit mode. So I'm hitting tab. It's going to change us to edit mode. So I'm just going to wait for that. And then I'm going to hit A. And that's going to select everything. And then Alt N. And then we can recalculate the outside. So that just prepares our models all good, like for UV unwrapping. And then I'm clicking U. And then I go Smart UV Project. And then the island margin is 0.02. That's fine. We're going to click OK. And this will take longer now because there's more triangles to unwrap. All right, so that's done. If I want to confirm, I can go to UV editing. Yep, perfect. I'll go back to layout. It's got everything now unwrapped. And now I can apply the displacement with the texture. So I go back to texture. I'm going to go to UV now. Yes, there we go. So now it's actually changed what I'm doing. I'm going to chill out the strength. It's probably too much. I'm going to go back to texture and bump up here we go. We're getting there. So it really depends on how dense you want it, what kind of look you're going for. The strength is probably still too high. There we go. And this is really interesting. So you can see here that to me, it actually looks like the inverse of how leather would look. So if I just type in like leather into Google Images, for example, or leather texture, you can see that the rings is what's actually pushed in. But in this case, I'm actually pushing in the circles, or I guess the middle bits. So we need to do the opposite. I assume there's a way to do this straight in Blender. The way that I know how to do this is that if you go here, you can go path, trace bitmap, and invert image. You click on that, and now it gives you the opposite of what you've got. So if I can take that out now, and that will be what I export. So I go to the export tab, and then I'm going to export this as my PNG v3 texture. Export. So now when I go back into Blender, I can change my texture. So I'm going to cancel the texture, new texture, open v3, preview. No preview. What's going on? PNG, maybe it's got to be a JPEG. That could be it. Let's go JPEG. Export. Should overwrite. Oh no, it'll just save it separately because it's a different file type. And now I can open the JPEG. Oh yeah, okay, it looks like it has to be a JPEG. That's good to know, I didn't know that. All right, and we're going to put our repeats back up to make them nice and dense. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go back to my modifier here and the wrench, and we can change this to some more appropriate value. But you can just play around with it now. And this is, yeah, look how it looks. This is actually looking like leather now, right? If I change the color, printed it, it might actually look like it. So you're just going to have to play with the size of this. Yeah, and the actual texture itself. So I've shown you a few tools. Obviously, if you just find the right kind of texture that you're after, or yeah, a cool way would really be to take a photo of the car itself and use its actual texture to do it. And I've shown you in Inkscape how you would take, this is an image, this top one, and then I inverted it and created this vector graphic, which I then exported. So this is a vector graphic, right? But when I selected it and I went to export, I exported it as a JPEG. It's got to be a JPEG. It can't be a PNG apparently for Blender. And yeah, that's just how I've done that workflow. But it could easily have been a photo of the actual car itself. So yeah, that could be a cool way to customize it to make it match exactly like what they've got. All right, so that's that. I want it to go a little bit more smaller. We can see that it's applied it everywhere. A problem would be that when you're printing this, the bottom bit will be an issue. Maybe there's ways in Blender to avoid that part. You probably could, like if in the UV editing, maybe like somehow get it to exclude that or add a modifier in there or something like that. I just plan on like just slicing that bottom bit very slightly. Yeah, that's how I'm going to get around that. Yeah. Okay, so once you're happy with it, go to the modifier, and this is what I would do actually. Save it. I go File, Save As, and this would be textured part ready to apply to texture. And what I mean by that is I'm basically, once I apply this texture, I can't go back. I'm going to go hit Apply, and I'm going to go Save As, because this is texture V3 applied is to this. That's done now. If I close this and open it again, I can't go back. Like this is a one-way command that I just did. Once the modifier is applied, it's a one-way command. So I'm going to go File, Export, STL, and I've got the smooth pod there. I'm just going to click Selection Only. It's just a habit of mine. There's only one thing in there. But now I'm going to go Textured Gauge Pod V3 texture. Went through a few iterations. Do that. Boom. I'm going to open up Bambu Studio. And where's our textured gauge pod V3 texture STL? Boom. Chuck that in there. Now it's going to be, what's happened. Let's have a look. This looks fine. Hang on. It might still have been loading that STL. That's quite funny. I think it's still exporting. We will find out if I hit reload from disk. Will we see this half come up? Yeah, there you go. It's still exporting, so it only load. That's pretty cool how it allowed it to load half while it was still being produced. The power of computers. But here's our part. Look at that. It looks exactly like leather to me, and you can't even like tell, maybe very slightly where some of these boundaries are. Maybe very slightly. I mean, I don't think when you print it, you'll be able to see some of those stuff. They could even be artifacts that the viewing. Oh, no, maybe there is a bit of wrap there, yeah. And this is where the nuances start to come in. Like that image that I got, like the actual V3 texture. This image here, this was just derived from a Google search, right? It's not meant to be a repeatable tool, a repeatable texture. So maybe there are textures that you could get that do that, or maybe you can muck around with Blender more and get it to like smooth those regions. I think it's done a pretty good job because I can't obviously see any repeats, except there's something going on here and here. All right, so the only other thing is when we're actually printing it is to make sure that we have got the printing process right. So if the depth is good and everything, we still need to make sure that we have like I'd say pretty good resolutions required. Say I've got a 0.4 nozzle. I would probably be doing high quality, yeah, 0.12 or 0.16, just so you could pick up a lot of these details. You're gonna have to play around with it, like, because honestly, it's gonna come down to a lot. Like, what color is this? If it's black or if it's like white, that's totally different. What type of filament are you using? Is it matte or is it like has a bit more of a gloss? Like, that's gonna make a big difference too. So you just kind of have to go through and have a play. So I'm gonna hit slice, and you're gonna see that this isn't just an aesthetic thing. Like, this is part of the model. We're going to actually have a look at how it modifies the path. So obviously you can use fuzzy skin to add like texture to the part, but you're not adding your texture. This is our exact texture. Like, these could be words even. These could be images. Like, you could apply like a whole bunch of like different things to it. Oh yeah, this part probably needs support material, but we don't have to worry about that yet. And if I go to filament mode, so we've got one color, turn seams off. You can see that at least on the side, oh Jesus, it's gonna be hard to see. Oh yeah, there we go. So at least on the sides, we've got like really good layers. We can like pick up that material, but on this bit here, the height of the leather, like the grooves, the height of these grooves wasn't enough to actually pick it up on the top surface, right? If you go back to when I showed you, when I did this another time, like I did this before, you can see that I've got that in there. And in this particular case, I got some of that leather texture on that bottom feature because it went deep enough. So what I have to do now, and it's kind of unfortunate because I have to go through that process again, is go back to my Blender file before I made this change. So I'm going to cancel that. I can hit save, and I'm going to open my ready to apply texture one here. And you can see that my texture hasn't been applied yet. It's before that. So if I add more strength here to make it like dig in more, so it looks a bit different, right? But that's given more strength to it. I can say, yeah, texture V3 applied. And then maybe I might actually put the amount 0.25 strength and hit save as. And now I can go apply, file, export, STL. I'm going to override my textured V3 pod there, and override that. So I can go into here, go to my prepare tab, and then I'm just going to right click and then have a look at the grooves here. I'm going to right click, reload from disk. There we go. And you can see that these grooves are a lot deeper. So now if I hit slice, hopefully that we get those grooves on that top edge there, because it kind of it would ruin the appearance a little bit, I think, if we did it slightly differently. If it had the leather texture on everything else but that top lip, it might be like, wait, that's like clearly wrong. And we've got some of that texture being applied there. Go and test this, give it a go. I'm going to print one of these out, or I might play with it a little bit longer. But yeah, a consideration as well is just to consider like the print orientation. You can see on top, like the texture doesn't get printed as well in this particular part because we have this kind of like horizontal kind of overhang. You might have to, and it's just the unfortunate like truth of it, is if you really want this high detail, you have to print in high detail. Like sometimes there's just no way around that. So going to 0.1 even would probably be the way to go here. So if I go to 0.1 instead of whatever I had it on before, that'll probably help with that layer stepping. Or maybe I could even use variable layer height, so it could go down like quite a lot for those like areas where it's going to have more stepping. In reality, like the actual model itself looks like leather, right? So now this is about trying to actually make the print look as close to the model as possible. So this is something that we probably should have considered from the start, like how the texture was going to be applied. In this particular case, the design's fixed. But if you have options for the design, then you would want to like think about how can I reduce that steep kind of edge that creates those steps, you know, because obviously those textures are going to have a really hard time to come in there. Yeah, and you can see that putting down to 0.1, this kind of stepping, it's like a lot less prominent. Like it's like right at the top that it does it. So yeah, like just you can see that it looks really good everywhere else. Just that top bit that it just doesn't quite look the same as everything else. Like just right at that top, it might be hard to see, but yeah, and maybe it'll get hidden in the print. But yeah, we got a lot better on the bottom here as well and on the side, so that looks great. So yeah, that's how you apply a custom texture using Blender and also Inkscape to kind of create that texture. Yeah, let us know how you go. Love to see any parts that you guys produce using this method.